Good day. Before I begin the next lesson, allow me to give a brief overview of the previous prior lesson, which focused entirely on imaging and design for social effect. Last time, they tackled about imaging and design for social impact. So we all know that imaging and design for social impact that may involve using visual communication and design principles to address and create positive changes in society. This approach leverages the power of images, graphics, and design to raise awareness, inspire actions, and drive social progress. They also discuss the importance of having a good design to communicate visually. So now let us go to our new lessons. It talks about photo imaging and post-processing. So at the end of this unit or of this video, you are expected to, or we are expected to, define photography terms and the effect each adjustment has on the image. And make basic photo edits and keep image quality. And also learn the workflow of post-processing. So photo imaging and post-processing are crucial steps in modern photography and digital image manipulations. So they involve a series or a lot of techniques and processes used to enhance, edit, and refine photographs, whether they were taken with digital cameras or traditional film cameras. These processes are typically carried out using image editing software like Adobe Photoshops. So, mga photographer, ginagamit yung Adobe Photoshops sa pag-edit ng pictures. Like Lightroom, makadalasan din ginagamit to, GIMP, and various other specialized tools. So, here's an overview of the key concepts and steps involved in photo imaging and post-processing. So, number one is importing and organizing. So, this step ensures efficient management and retrieval of images. So in the digital photography workflow, images are first imported from the camera. So kailangan mo nang i-import yung images or mga pictures na kailangan mong i-edit through sending or sharing, no, sa computer or in cell phone or smartphone in your storage devices. And they are often organized into folders and catalog using like Adobe Lightroom, yung mga applications na ginagamit or gagamitin sa pag-i-edit. So number two is RAW conversion. So many photographers shoot in the RAW file format. So maraming mga photographer na ginagamit din ang RAW conversion, no, which captures all the unprocessed data from the camera sensor. So RAW files offer greater flexibility for post-processing compared to JPEG files. So yung JPEG files, ito yung extension name ng image. And then during RAW conversion, the initial adjustment for exposure, white balance, sharpness, and more are made. So dito yung nagaganap yung adjustment ng exposure, white balance, and sharpness ng isang litrato or image. Pangatlo, yung global adjustments. So global adjustments, affect the entire image. These include exposure correction, contrast, and overall color balance. So next is number 4, the local adjustments. The target specific areas of an image or techniques like dodging or brightening and burning or darkening can be applied to specific regions to draw attention or balance exposure. So, ang kaibahan lang dito is ang specific areas and local adjustments, while ang global adjustments, it include exposure corrections lang or contrast adjustment lang, saturations, and also the overall color balance. So yung panglima is color correction and grading. This is often used in cinematic photography to evoke emotions. And color correction and grading ensures accurate representations of colors in the image. Color grading, on the other hand, involves creating a specific mode or atmosphere by manipulating colors. And Number 6 is retouching and manipulation. So, retouching involves removing imperfections or blemishing from the subject, enhancing details, and improving overall aesthetics. And advanced techniques can be used for portrait retouching, object removal, and composition adjustment. So number 7, sharpening and noise reduction. Sharpening enhances the image's perceived sharpness, while noise reduction minimizes unwanted grain or noise, especially in low light or high ISO images. Then number 8 is cropping and composition. Cropping involves removing unwanted parts of an image to improve its composition. This can help emphasize the main subject and eliminate distraction. So, eliminate, from the word eliminate, inawawala or parang pagtatanggal, no? Hindi yung mga hindi ka nais na naisama sa pag-picture, tinatanggal o kinakrop para maging maayos yung kalalabasan ng isang image or photo. And number 9 is effects and filters. Creative effects like vignette, selective blurring, and simulated film grain can be added to achieve a specific artistic style. So tayo, may iba-iba tayong gusto sa pag-i-edit ng isang photos, no? May kanya-kanya tayong nais sa isang photos. Kagaya na lang ng blurring, no? Gusto mo specific, i-blurred mo yung background ng isang litrato para isang subject lang yung focus ng isang images. So number 10 is saving in different format. Depending on the intended use, the edited image might be saved in various formats. For web use, a JPEG is common due to its small file size. For print or further editing, TIFF or PSD formats might be preferred. Number 11 is non-destructive editing. Using layers and adjustment mask, non-destructive editing allows changes to be made without permanently altering the original image data. This facilitates experimentation and revision. So panghuli, and the number 12 is presets and batch processing. Presets are predefined settings that can be applied to multiple images to achieve consistent looks. Batch processing automates repetitive tasks across multiple images. So while post-processing, it can greatly enhance images. It's very true, and it's very important to maintain ethical standards and not manipulate images in ways that deceive viewers or mispresents reality, especially in journalistic and documentation context. So now let us define the definition of photography. So what is photography? Photography is the process of capturing light to create an image. This is executed through the use of a camera, either film or digital. Sa mga photogenic or mga photographer, ito yung mga kadalasan nilang hilig, ginagawa, no? Pagka-capture or pagkukuha ng mga litrato, like landscaping man yan or portrait. Kagaya ko, minsan gumagawa din ako ng mga landscaping, like nature yung gusto ko na na theme. So pumupunta ako sa isang lugar kagaya ng mga bundok, nakaka-capture ako doon ng mga minimalist lang na view ng isang landscape area.
First, we have exposure. Exposure in photography is a crucial concept that directly affects the quality and appearance of your photos. It refers to the amount of light that reaches the camera sensor when you take a picture. Adjusting exposure settings allow you to control the brightness of the image. So, underexposure are overexposure and underexposure. We're gonna discuss first about the overexposure. Overexposure, this occurs when too much light reaches the camera sensor. As a result, your image appears excessively bright and may lack detail. Highlights can get blown out, meaning that areas that should have had texture and detail may become featureless, resulting in a washed out look. Second is underexposure. On the contrary, Underexposure happens when there's too little light reaching the sensor. This results in a dark image that lacks detail. Shadows may become too deep and important parts of your photo might be lost in darkness. So, balancing exposure is a fundamental skill in photography. Photographers often use settings like aperture, shutter speed, and ISO to control the exposure of their photos. These settings, when adjusted properly, can help you achieve the desired level of brightness and detail in your images, ensuring a well-exposed photograph. Second, we have contrast. Contrast in an image refers to the difference between the light and dark areas within the photograph. It is a fundamental element of composition that directly impacts the visual separation and distinction between different elements in the image. So, under contrast are high contrast and low contrast. High contrast, when you increase contrast, you're intensifying the difference between the brightest highlights and the darkest shadows in the photo. This results in a bold, dynamic appearance. High contrast images often have strong, well-defined edges and more dramatic, striking look. They tend to be visually engaging and can make certain elements stand out with vivid clarity. Second is low contrast. Conversely, reducing contrast diminishes the difference between highlights and shadows. This softens the transition between light and dark areas, leading to a more subdued and gentle appearance. Low contrast images may have a dreamy or hazy quality with a smoother tonal range. They often convey a sense of calm or subtlety and can be well suited for certain artistic or atmospheric effects. In photography, you can control contrast through various means including post-processing techniques or adjusting the lighting during the image capture. The choice of contrast level can significantly impact the mood and visual impact of a photograph. So, photographers often use it as a creative tool to express their artistic vision. So, ang ikatulo ay ang saturation. Saturation refers to the intensity of colors in an image. Adjusting saturation impacts the vibrancy of colors. So, ang under saturation kay naay duha, ang high saturation ug ang low saturation. Okay. So, ang high saturation, when you increase the saturation, it boosts the intensity of colors in the image, making them appear more vivid and vibrant. High saturation can result in an image with bold, eye-catching colors that really pop. It's often used to make specific elements stand out and create a lively, colorful look. Sa low saturation, on the other hand, reducing saturation decreases the intensity of colors, leading to a more muted or even grayscale appearance. Low saturation can give images a softer, more subdued look, and it's commonly used to create a more understated or minimalist aesthetic. In extreme cases, desaturation can even turn an image into black and white. Saturation adjustment is a powerful tool in an image editing and photography as it allows you to control the visual impact of color. Depending on the level of saturation you choose, you can create images that are bursting with vibrancy or images that have a more subtle and muted color palette. Okay, ang next kay ang white balance. White balance is a crucial aspect of photography that ensures accurate color representations in various lighting conditions. It's all about making sure that white objects appear truly white in your photos, regardless of whether you're shooting indoors or outdoors in different types of lighting. Here's a deeper explanation. Warm tungsten white balance. When you set your white balance to warm or tungsten, it shifts the color in your image towards the red and yellow spectrum. This setting is suitable for indoor lighting conditions, especially when using tungsten or incandescent lighting. These types of artificial lighting tend to have a warm or yellowish hue. By using the warm white balance setting, you can counteract this warmth and ensure that white objects still appear neutral in your photos. Cool daylight white balance. Conversely, setting your white balance to cool or daylight shifts the colors in your image towards the blue spectrum. This setting is ideal for outdoor photography in natural daylight. Daylight typically has a cooler bluish tint, and the color white balance setting helps maintain accurate color representation under these lighting conditions. It prevents your photos from appearing too warm or yellow when taken outdoors. White balance is an essential tool for photographers to maintain the true colors of a scene and avoid unwanted color cast caused by different lighting sources. By selecting the appropriate white balance setting, you can ensure that your photos accurately represent the colors as your eyes perceive them, making your images look more natural and appealing. Next is sharpness. Sharpness is a critical factor in photography that directly affects the clarity and crispness of the details in an image. Here's a more detailed explanation of its effects. Increased sharpness. When you increase sharpness, you enhance the fine details and texture in the image. This adjustment makes edges and lines appear more defined and precise. Increased sharpness can create a visually striking effect by emphasizing intricate details, making the image look more crisp and clear. However, excessive sharpness can lead to the appearance of artifacts and less natural look, so it should be used judiciously. Decrease sharpness. Reducing sharpness has the opposite effect. It softens and diffuses fine details in the image. This can be used to create a more dreamy or smooth appearance, ideal for portraits and certain artistic styles. Decreased sharpness can make the image appear less harsh or more atmospheric by reducing the prominence of small details. It's a useful tool for achieving a more gentle or subtle look. Photographers often use sharpness adjustment to control the visual impact of their images. The choice of sharpness level can significantly affect the mood and perception of a photograph, so it's essential to consider the subject matter and the intended style when adjusting sharpness settings. Next is vignetting. Vignetting is a photographic effect that darkens or lightens the corners of an image, drawing attention to the center. It's often used for artistic and compositional purposes. Here's a more detailed explanation of its effects. Positive vignette. When you apply a positive vignette, you intentionally darken the corners of the image. This technique is commonly used for artistic effect or to guide the viewer's focus towards the central part of the photo. Positive vignetting can create a sense of depth and direct the viewer's attention to the subject or main subject of the image. It's often employed to enhance the composition and draw the viewer's gaze to the center of interest. Negative vignette. In contrast, a negative vignette involves brightening the corners of the image. This is useless frequently but can create a unique look. It can be used to create a dreamy, ethereal, or otherworldly effect by drawing attention away from the center and towards the periphery of the image. So, kabaliktaran ni siya sa positive vignette. Kaya kung ang positive vignette sa center part sa image nimo i-draw ang attention sa viewers, sa negative vignette po dito ka mo kuan sa away sa center sa image. Imo siyang i-direct towards the periphery of the image. Negative vignetting is not as common as positive vignette but can be a creative choice for photographers looking to experience with unconventional compositions. Vignetting is a tool that photographers use to manipulate the viewer's perception and create a particular mood or emphasis in their photos. The choice of applying a positive or negative vignette depends on the photographer's artistic intent and the story they want to convey through their images. Next is blur. Blur is an intentional reduction of sharpness and detail in an image, often employed for creative or artistic purposes. It can add various visual effects and convey different emotions or messages. Here's a more detailed explanation of two common types of blur. Gaussian blur. When you apply Gaussian blur, you create a soft, out-of-focus effect across the entire image. This type of blur spreads the image details, making them appear more diffuse and gentle. It's frequently used for artistic effects like creating a dreamy or ethereal atmosphere, blurring the background to make a subject stand out, or stimulating the shallow depth of field seen in portrait photography. Ang motion blur ang motion blur simulates motion or adds a dynamic element to an image by intentionally blurring in a specific direction. This type of blur is often used to depict movement, speed, or action. For example, it can be used to show a car racing by, a person running, or a waterfall in motion. The direction and intensity of the blur convey the speed and direction of the moving subject, giving a sense of energy and movement to the photograph. Both types of blur are valuable tools in photography and image editing, enabling photographers and artists to convey different emotions and effects in their work. The choice of which type of blur to use depends on the desired creative outcome and the story the image is meant to tell. Next is crop. Cropping is a fundamental image editing technique that involves removing portions of an image to enhance composition, emphasize a subject, or change the aspect ratio. So let's go into more detail about the effects of different cropping styles. Tight crop. When you apply a tight crop, you're essentially zooming in on the image to highlight a specific element or detail. This is a useful technique to eliminate distractions and draw the viewer's attention to the main subject. A tight crop can make the subject appear more prominent and detailed, making it a powerful tool for portrait photography, macro photography, or any situation where you want to focus on specific aspects of a scene. So, ang second kay ang wide crop. Wide crop, in contrast, a wide crop involves expanding the frame to capture more of the scene. This is often used to provide context or create a more expansive view. Wide, wide crops can be employed rather when you want to include more elements in the frame to tell a broader story or showcase the environment surrounding the subject. It's common in landscape photography, architectural photography, or when you want to emphasize the relationship between the subject and its surroundings. The choice between a tight crop and a wide crop depends on your artistic intent and the message you want to convey through the image. Cropping allows you to fine-tune the composition of your photos, making it a powerful tool for photographers and image editors to enhance the visual impact and storytelling of their images. So, ang next kay ang HDR or High Dynamic Range is a photographic technique that involves combining multiple exposures of the same scene to capture a wider range of light and detail. Here's a deeper explanation of its effects. Increased dynamic range. When you create an HDR image, you're essentially capturing a series of photos at different exposure levels, including some overexposed to capture details in shadows and some underexposed to capture details in highlights. By combining these exposures, an HDR image allows details in both the brightest highlights and the darkest shadows to be visible in the final photograph. This results in a more balanced image with a broader range of tonal values. Under sa increased dynamic range kay ang highlights ug ang shadows. Highlights in an HDR image, bright areas like sky or direct sunlight can retain their detail and not appear overly blown out or washed out. Shadows, dark areas in the image, such as shaded parts, can also show more detail and clarity without appearing too black. HDR images often have a more lifelike appearance because they closely mimic the dynamic range that the human eye can perceive. They are especially useful in situations where there's a stark contrast between very bright and very dark areas, such as in landscape photography with strong sunlight or indoor scenes with both natural and artificial lighting. So, the last but not the least is the grain or noise. Grain or noise adds a textured appearance to an image, and its effects can vary depending on the intensity. Here's a more detailed explanation. Fine grain or noise. Fine grain or noise can add a vintage or film-like aesthetic to an image. In film photography, film grain refers to the texture created by the silver highlight crystals on the film emulsion. In the digital realm, this is often referred to as noise. When used intentionally and in moderation, fine grain or noise can give an image a nostalgic, classic look reminiscent of older film photographs. It can add character and a sense of authenticity to the photo, enhancing its artistic or storytelling qualities. Excessive grain or noise. On the other hand, excessive grain or noise can degrade image quality, making it appear gritty or less sharp. When there's an overabundance of grain or noise in a digital image, it can be distracting and detract from the overall quality. Images may lose detail, appear less crisp, and look less appealing. Excessive noise can be the result of using high ISO settings in low light conditions or from digital post-processing. While it can be artistic in some contexts, it's typically avoided in situations where image quality and fidelity are essential, such as in professional photography or when aiming for a clean, modern look. Photographers often manipulate grain or noise to achieve specific creative effects or to cope with less than ideal shooting conditions. The key is to strike a balance that enhances the image, visual appeal, and emotional impact without compromising the overall quality. Three basic types of photography, each with its own focus and characteristic. So first, portrait photography. Portrait photography is all about capturing the essence and personality of individuals or groups of people. It aims to highlight the subject's facial expressions, emotions, and characteristics. Portrait can range from formal studio shots to candid outdoor or lifestyle images. Lighting, composition, and posing play a crucial roles in creating engaging portraits. So, portrait photographs tend to have shallow depth of field, meaning the background is slightly out of focus while the subject is sharply in focus. Portrait photographs are generally planned, posed, and rehearsed. So, ang portrait photograph is kanang focus siya sa subject para makita or ma-enhance ang ilang expression, ilang mga kanang face, kanang mga emotions o ilang mga characteristics. Next is landscape photography. Landscape photography involves capturing the beauty of natural environments such as mountains, forests, oceans, and other scenic vistas. The focus is on showcasing the grandeur and serenity of the world around us. Composition, lighting, and timing, such as capturing the golden hour, are essential in creating visually stunning landscape images. So, landscape photography is a technique of capturing images of nature to bring the viewer into the scene. The Through landscape photography, the photographers demonstrate their connection to nature and capture the essence of the environment around them. When we see a landscape, our eyes travel over the focus and appealing elements. Our field of vision includes a great deals of scenes, but eyes and brains can ignore everything except the fascinating details. So, simply put, landscape photography captures the beauty of nature in the outdoors. This photograph brings the viewers into the scenery and perfectly captures setting, mode, and feeling in the location. So, ang landscape is kanang mga nature, like pareha na to, hilig ta mag picture sa mga kanang bukid-bukid. So, that is landscape photography. Next is still life photography. Still life photography centers around imitate objects, arrangements, and composition. It can include anything from everyday objects to carefully arranged setups that evoke specific themes or modes. Still life Still life control over the arrangement, lighting, and backdrop to create visually appealing and thought-provoking images. So traditionally, a still life is a collection of inanimate objects around as the subject of composition. So mga things or mga kuan na arrange mo na ilang focus siya sa mga things na kanang hatagan o kanang murag meaning through sa kanang pag-picture or pag-photograph. So, these are the three basic types of photography. So, napatay ka ng mga numerous subgenres and specialties within each. So, we have street photography. Street photography is capturing candid moments and scene in the public places like sa TikTok. Sa TikTok is kanang nga sila activities or mag-ask sila og strangers para kanang i-model nila sa kanang mga public places. So that's the example of street photography. Then next is wildlife photography. It is documenting animals and their behaviors in their natural habitat. So it focused on kanang mga animals like sa mga documentaries or discoveries sa mga kanang sa wild, ilang i-capture ang mga animals para makita ang ilang mga beauty. Macro photography, capturing extreme close-up details of small subjects. So macro photography is extreme close-up photography, usually of very small subjects and living organisms like insects. So ang ilang focus is ang mga small subjects, then ilang i-close up para makita or kuan ag details sa kana na subject like insects, ilang i-close up so makita nato og unsa jay forma sa insects. Next is architectural photography, focusing on building structures and architectural elements. Architectural photography is a genre of photography that focuses on capturing photographs of buildings or structure. Hence, it also involves photographing the interiors and exteriors of buildings, bridges, structures, and cityscapes. So, architectural photography, also referred to as building photography or structure photography, generally means photography that focuses on building. It also includes the kanang mga exterior, mga interior, sa mga bridges, mga structures, o mga cityscape. So, in addition to promoting properties, architectural photography can also be used to capture the essence of the place for travel brochures, website contents, or even personal projects. So like mga engineers, mga kuan nana kasagaran ingana mga architectural photography kasagaran na sa kuan ngana. Then mukuan po na sa mga websites. Next is fashion photography, showcasing clothing and accessories through creative and stylish shots or shoots rather. So fashion photography is a combination of product, portrait, and fine art photography, where art meets commerce. It's the clothes, models, poses, lighting, background, and more. It is all working together to create beautiful imagery to sell an aesthetic and lifestyle. So kanang sa mga fashion magazine, dihan nimo makita ang mga kasagaran sa fashion photography. And it is also kind of product photography. Its idea is to highlight fashionable items distinctly and attractively so that people can understand how it looks and fit before they purchase. So generally, it is done with a neutral background and it doesn't distract your attention from the fashion. Oh, next is event photography, covering events like weddings, parties, and conference. So, ang event photography is a professional art of snapping high-quality images during a wide variety of important occasions, or from personal events like weddings or birthday parties to large public gatherings like corporative events, galas, award ceremonies, and music festival. So, common na kaayo ang kanang event photography like atong mga graduations. So, kanang mo na example sa event photography. Then next is sports photography, capturing action-packed moment in sports event. So, the art of sports photography is about more than just capturing the action on the field. It's about capturing the emotions, the intensity, and the drama of the game in a single image. Sports photography is one of the most intricate types of art. So, sports photography is an art documenting sports, athletic activities, and athletes. So, the photography stands on sideline, capturing the actions as it unfolds on the pitch, court, or tracks. So, like mga soccer, mga basketball, so kanang ilang i-capture ang mga players or mga kuan pud sila og mga candid na mga photos or para ma-capture ang kanang moments sa sports. And next and the last one is documentary photography. It is telling stories and documenting real-life situation and event. So, documentary photography is a style of photography that provides a straightforward and accurate representation of people, places, objects, and events. So, it usually refers to a popular form of photography used in chronicle events or environments both significant and relevant to history. So just like us, kanang when we capture or kanang mo take taong mga pictures sa karon, then in the future magamit na nato or makuha na nato na kanus anang adlaw or unsay events ana. So that's an example of documentary photography. Then let's proceed to exposure in photography. Exposure in photography refers to the amount of light that reaches the camera's image sensor or film during the process of capturing an image. Achieving the correct exposure is crucial for producing a well-balanced and visually pleasing photograph. So, exposure is determined by three main factors. So, first is aperture. Aperture is an opening within the lens through which light passes. It is measured in f-stops. A smaller f-stop number corresponds to a larger aperture opening, allowing more light to reach the sensor. Aperture also affects the depth of field, influencing how much the image is in focus from foreground to background. So, aperture refers to opening of lens diagram through which light passes. It is the section of the camera that can be adjusted to let it more or less light. A small aperture lets it less light and leads to a darker image, while the larger one can flood sensors with light. So, aperture is kanang pag-adjust nimo kung more or less ba ang lights sa ana na photography. 10. Then next is shutter speed. Shutter speed refers to the amount of time that the camera sensor or film is exposed to light. It is measured in seconds or fraction of a second. Faster shutter speeds capture motion freeze, while slower speed can introduce motion blur. So, shutter speed is exactly what it sounds like. It's the speed at which the shutter of the camera closes. A fast shutter speed creates a shorter exposure, the amount of light the camera takes in, and the slower shutter speeds give the photographer a longer exposure. So, shutter speed refers to how long the camera's shutter remains open while taking a photo, and it also controls the amount of time that we capture light for. So, depende na nimo sa imong pag kanang shutter speed ay imong pag-press ingana kanang para makuha na ang exposure or amount sa kanang mga sa light. So, the third one is ISO sensitivity. ISO determines the sensitivity of the camera sensor to light. It is represented by a number. Higher ISO settings make the sensor more sensitive to light, allowing the proper exposure in low light condition. However, higher ISO settings can also introduce noise or graininess into the image. So, ang ISO in photography is a very simple tool to increase brightness of your image in low light condition or when you need a faster shutter speed. So, ang ISO sensitivity di ay kay ang ability of a sensor to provide a defined response or a given level of lighting. So, balancing these three elements is key to achieving the desired exposure. So, here how they relate. So, ang increasing aperture o ang decreasing aperture. So, a higher aperture means less light in entering the camera. This settings is better for when you want everything in a shot to be in focus. So, like when you're shooting a group shot or a landscape, a lower aperture means more light in entering the camera, which is better for low light scenarios. So, then, as aperture sizes decrease, diffraction increases and the result is reduced image sharpness, as the aperture is progressively stepped down from f to 1.4 to f16. There is a reduction of optical aberration and then an introduction of diffraction. Then, increasing shutter speed and decreasing shutter speed is increasing shutter speed. A faster shutter speed reduces the amount of light hitting the sensor and increases motion. Then decreasing shutter speed, a slower shutter speed lets in more light and can introduce motion blur. Then, decreasing ISO, higher ISO settings make the sensor more sensitive to light but can introduce noise. Then decreasing ISO, lower ISO settings reduces sensor sensitivity and noise that might require longer exposure. So, i-discuss na ni nato ganina habang i-discuss nato ang kanang main factors sa exposure. Exposure is one of the most fundamental photography terms. When you take a picture, you press a shutter button to open a camera's aperture, and light streams in triggering a response from a sensor. Exposure is the amount of light that reaches your camera sensor, creating visual data over a period of time. So, so to achieve proper exposure, photographers aim to balance these three settings based on the available light and the desired creative effect. The right combination can vary depending on the scene, the desired level of sharpness, and the intended mode to the photograph. Many modern cameras offer automatic and semi-automatic exposure modes to assist photographers in finding the optimal settings for various situations.
Here are the top 10 tips for taking great pictures. Number 1. Understand your equipment. Take the time to learn how your camera works, understand its settings, moods, and features to maximize its potential. So kinahanglan jud og mag-take ka og kanang mga nindot nga mga pictures, ikaw nga tag-iya or kanang mogamit sa equipment para sa kanang pagpicture, dapat naswito ka o mas nakahibaw ka unsaon paggamit para inig picture nimo wa nay problema kay nakahibaw na kaunsaon og paggamit nga ng equipment. So number 2, master composition. Composition is key. Learn about the rule of thirds, leading lines, symmetry, framing, and other compositional techniques to create visually appealing images. So, kinahanglan pod master na ka sa pag-take og picture kay aron pod nice ang kalabas na nga nga picture nga imong i-take. So, number 3, use natural light. Natural light can greatly enhance your photos. Shoot during the golden hour or shortly after sunrise or before sunset for soft, warm light that adds depth and dimension. So, para makahibaw ka, ay para nindot ang imong nakuha nga mga pictures, so kinahanglan nga mogamit kag natural light kay di man pod way nindot ang picture og kanang ang light nimo is kanang sobraan ra sa kahayag, so nindot jud og sunrise og sunset jud ka mag-picture kay labaw na ron mao nay also ang sunset kay nindot kayo ang light ingana sa pagpicture. Number 4, focus on the subject. Ensure your subject is in focus and stands out. Use techniques like shallow depth or field to blur the background and draw attention to your subject. So kinahanglan mo pag-picture ka, naka-focus jud ang imong pag-picture sa unsay kinsa imong gipicturean ingana. Number 5, experiment with angles. Don't shoot everything from eye level. Try different angles and perspectives to create unique and interesting shots. So kani nindot po ni sa pag-taking great pictures kay naay different angles nga matan-aw pud sa uban like perspective like naay nagpicture sa picturean ka sa tubangan na pud sa likod kay o sa kilid inga kay mas nindot ang pagkakuha inga na og pictures, different perspectives. Number 6, pay attention to backgrounds. A cluttered or distracting background can ruin an otherwise great shot. Make sure your background complements and doesn't detract from your subject. So, aron mas nice og pagkuha ang picture is mas magkadepende jud na ang mga audiences nga makuha ilang attention sa background. So, kung ikaw nga na nga subject nga gipicturean kanya, lain kayo imong background, so mo to yung makuha ang attention sa viewer nimo og nice pud imong background, i-complement po na nila nga nice imong background pero og why nindot usad na ilang mabantayan. Number 7, capture emotion and moments. Candid moments and genuine emotions can make for powerful photographs. Be patient and observant to capture these special instances. So, ang pag-capture emotion and moments, nice jud siya labi na sa kanang pag-take og picture kay kanang mga stolen shots. Stolen shot nga nindot like mga candid nga wa ka kahibaw nga magipicturean day kay nga na mga paparazzi na uban nga na nga maghimo-himo nag ingana. Nice siya kay dili man scripted ang pag-take og picture, like candid ra siya nga wa ka kahibaw pero wa ka kahibaw nga gipicturean ka pero nice ang result sa picture. So number 8, practice patience. Photography often requires waiting for the right moment, whether it's the right light, the perfect expression, or the ideal composition. Patience pays off. So as a photographer o mamicturay, dapat kaybaw ka unsay maayo nga buhaton nga sa right light para sa nindot nga picture nimo. Kinahanglan jud nag patience para makuha nimo ang gusto nimo nga kuha nga picture, like sa perfect expression, imong waton nga ingana nga expression, like sa imong gipicturean mapicturean nimo og tarong kay naghuwat man ka nga mo na ang perfect time nga imong picturean, imong i-capture na para sa goal nimo nga picture. So number 9, simplify your shots. Sometimes less is more. Eliminate unnecessary elements from the frame to create a clean and impactful image. So from word simplify your shots, imo rang gihimo o nga simple ang imong na pictures, but kuan siya kanang nice siya makakuha siya attention o nindot siya nga image. Number 10, post-processing enhancement. Post-processing can take your photos to the next level. Learn basic editing techniques to enhance colors, contrast, sharpness, and correct minor imperfections. So, post-processing enhancement, kasi kahibaw na tayo nga pag-enhance sa atong picture. Workflow of post-processing. The post-processing workflow involves a series of steps and techniques applied to digital images after they've been captured. This process enhances, refines, and transforms the initial photograph into a final, polished result. Here's a general outline of the post-processing workflow. Number 1. Import and organize. It means transfer your images from the camera to your computer. Use photo management software to organize and categorize your images for easy access. So kanidang import and organize, like ug na kay camera mag-picture ka, imong i-transfer ang nakuha nimo nga mga pictures sa imong computer para ngadto na nimo i-organize ang mga picture. So number 2, raw conversion. It means if you shot in a raw format, use raw processing software. Example of that, Adobe Camera Raw, Lightroom to adjust initial settings like exposure, white, balance, and clarity. So raw conversion means nga like nanay sa edit niya, like aning Lightroom editor maani nga app. So makagamit tayo nga ni para ma-adjust ang mga exposure, white, balance, and clarity. Number 3, global adjustments. Apply overall adjustment to the entire image and adjust exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, saturation, and vibrance to achieve the desired look. So, kaning global adjustment, from the word adjustment, imo na ipang-adjust ang sa picture para ma-nice na siya og tan-awon og ma-achieve na nimo ang imong goal nga makuha nimo ang goal nimo nga look ingana nga picture. Number 4, local adjustments. It means use brushes, gradients, or adjustment mask to make changes to specific areas. Dodge and burn to selectively brighten or darken parts of the image, or enhance or correct specific colors, details, or tones. So, pare-parehara po ni sa global adjustments. Nagkalahian naman sila sa uban nga mga adjustments nga gipang gamit. Number 5, color corrections and grading. Adjust color balance and tint to achieve accurate colors. Apply color grading for a specific mood or aesthetic if desired. So, color correction is from the word color, so ang imo jud nang i-adjust is ang color dira sa picture para makuha nimo ang imong gusto nga look nga na nga picture. So number 6, retouching and clean up. It means remove blemishes, distractions, and unwanted elements. Smooth skin, remove dust spots, and correct imperfection as needed. So, aganing retouching and clean up is sa pag-edit nimo or sa pag-enhance nimo sa imong picture, imo nang pangkuha ng mga kinahanglan kuhaon sa imong pag-edit sa like mga imong pahamisan ba ang sa picture nimo, pangkuhaon ang mga murag naka-distract nga ingon ka maka-distract sa audiences. So dira sa pag-edit mo na ang retouching and clean up. So number 7, sharpening and noise reduction. Apply appropriate sharpening to enhance image details. Use noise reduction to reduce unwanted grain or noise, especially in high ISO images. Number 8, cropping and straightening. Crop the image to improve composition or eliminate distractions. Straighten horizons and correct perspectives, distortion if necessary. So sa picture, naman dyan yung crop. Pag cropping, kay naay sa imong pag-edit nga na ganahan ka i-crop na nga picture like sa pag-take nimo nga na nga picture is naay nasagol nga lain nga mga subject, is imo na siyang i-crop. Number 9, effects and filters. It means apply creative effects such as vignettes, filters, or simulated film grains for artistic flair. So, ano sa effects and filters, sa itong mga picture, mga apply dyan ani para mas nindot tanaw ang atong pictures, like creative siya. Creative effects o mas nindot siya tanawon. Number 10, final touches. Fine-tune any remaining adjustment to achieve your desired outcome. Ensure the image looks balanced and cohesive. So there sa final touches is muna i-finalize ang sa pag-edit nimo sa imong picture para sa final result. Number 11, saving and exporting. Save a copy of your edited image in a non-destructive format. Example is TIFF, PST. If further editing is anticipated, so export a final version of the image in the desired format, example JPG, and resolution for its intended use, web or print. Saving and exporting mo na ni ang pag-save na sa imong mga picture nga imong ganahan or imong gi-edit. So mo na pag mag-finalize mo na ang pag-save or exporting. Either imo na siyang i-print ang kuan or imo na siyang i-save sa imong cellphone. So number 12, backup and cataloging. Safely store your edited images and backups to prevent loss. Update your photo management software catalog to reflect the changes made. So kaning backup and cataloging is sa mga na-edit na nimo nga mga picture, dito na nimo ipang save para dili sad mawa or kanang either adto na nimo ibutang sa butangan ba nimo file nga na para sad og naa kay usbo nga na sa imong gi-edit is dili mawa tong nga picture. It's important to note that post-processing should enhance your original vision without overly manipulating the image in ways that misrepresent reality, especially in documentary or journalistic context. Developing a consistent and efficient post-processing workflow comes with practice and experience, allowing you to achieve the desired results while saving time and effort.